Hello, my name is Tuppence. I really like to get the most out of my moulds, and when I got this mould from Temu, I was a little disappointed. It's meant to be a candle holder, and then it has houses which fit over these grooves, and I just didn't like the houses, they're too big, so I want to use this for a snack dish. So I've got myself a disc out of some acetate. I just measured across this middle section, and I'm going to blank that off so that I don't pour that centre panel, the bit where the candle would fit. So I'm going to make sure that this is all pressed down and it fits perfectly, just covering up that middle bit so that none of the Aqua Cast that I'm going to use will be able to pour down there. I've thoroughly cleaned the mould before I've done this, and I'm pressing this down really well to create a seal. There you go, so it's just covered that section. Now I'm going to mix up my Aqua Cast. Alright, so I don't know how much this is going to take. I'm going to mix up 200 grams of powder and around 70 of water. So I've actually got 74 there, and that'll be fine. I'm just going to reset this, and then I'll put in my 200 grams of powder. Now I'm using Aqua Cast because once I seal this, it's going to be food safe, and I'm going to use this as a snack dish. And the way I'm going to seal it is I have a wax, and the wax that I'm using is also deemed food safe. So I will use that on the inside, and on the outside I'm going to be using some acrylic varnish so that it will all be wipeable. So anywhere that the food's going to come into contact, that will be the wax. And also that will be, it won't have any colour in it where the food is going to be. So I have all my powder in, and now I just need to mix this up. I'm going to stir this around until I've got all of that powder incorporated. I'm pushing it against the edge of the cup to break up any lumps that might be in there. Now I'm not mixing this fast, I've just sped it up so you're not going to get bored. And I've said this before, but if you're new, I like to put the powder into the water. It does help mix it up a little better. Now I can start to pour this into my mould. So I'm going to go around the edge, and I'm only going to pour a little bit in for now. And then I can shake this around and tap it up and down, make sure that that gets all to the bottom of those channels. They are pretty narrow. And then I'm going to gently squeeze around the edges at the bottom, and that hopefully will dislodge any bubbles and make sure that the eco resin gets all the way around the bottom of the rim. I don't want any bubbles down there. That will cause a hole in the final product. I'm just going to take this stick, and for the same reason again, I'm going to run that around the inside of those channels very gently. Don't want to scratch my mould, I just want to make sure that everything has settled all the way down to the bottom. Okay, a couple more taps, and then I can add a little bit more. And it looks like I've made a pretty good guess as to how much I'm going to need. So again, I'm going to shake this, help it to level out. Aqua Cast is a little bit thicker than other eco resins, so it does need a little help to flatten out. I'm just going to scrape out what's left in my cup. You can see there's a lump that is just sitting there, so again I'm going to just jiggle my mould around and get that to lay flat. And this will also help any bubbles that will rise to the surface, which is why I'm tapping it, tapping the table, just jiggling it around. If you have something called a vibration plate, you can put it on that, but I find this is enough. Right, I'm going to leave that to cure. It's a couple of hours later now, and I had this curing in my G3, and I think that's probably why you can see that it has shrunk on the bottom. And I've also got a little edge where my thumb is right now that is a little bit dented, and that was probably when I was moving it. But that's fine, I can sand that, and I always put something on the bottom anyway, so I'll probably be putting some cork. I've left it for a couple of hours because the walls on this are thin. I didn't want to snap them. So I'm gently pulling that out, and that's worked really well. So now you can see that I don't have that candle bit in the middle. I do have one little bubble there, and I can fix that later. But generally that is pretty good. I'm really happy with that. I can keep this little bit of plastic, just give it a wash, and then I can use that again. So I love the fact that I've made a different use out of this mould. I think it's going to be far more useful this way. Alright, so I am not going to be painting anything on the inside of that, but I do want to add some decoration to the outside, and I have this beautiful mould. It's for Sugarcraft and clay. I got it for Temu, and if I can find the links for it, I will put all of that in the description box below. I've also got this bookbinding glue, and I've got some corn flour, and I'm going to be using some air dry foam clay. This is the Bohs make, and I'm going to create some sprigs that I'm going to be putting on the outside. So first I need to dust my mould with a little bit of corn flour, and this is just going to be a releasing agent to help that clay not stick in the mould basically. Right, so I'm going to take a small amount of the clay. You can see it is a bit like very stringy marshmallow or bubblegum. And then I'm going to push this into the mould, try and get it as flat as I can on the back and make sure that it is all squished in. The tidier I can get this now, the better. So I'm just going to use my fingers, which are the best tools ever. Take some more off and make sure that it is flat. And I'm pressing it into the mould so that it will pick up all of that texture. And that looks pretty good. Right, now I just have to bend the mould, and I'm pushing from underneath with my fingers, and that's helping that to release. And here I have a lovely bit of, well, it looks a bit like a fir branch or a fern. So I'm going to use the bookbinding glue, which is a PVA based glue, and I'm going to put that onto the mould so that I can help this stick. And this will dry onto the mould, so it's going to give me the shape that I want, and it will stay in place, and it will dry at the same time as the Aqua Cast. Just lay that on, and I'm going to carry on and build this up. So I am going to pop on some music, and you can watch me create these and then decorate the mould.
In the quiet of December, when the night is crisp and clear, there's a jolly man who wanders, spreading warmth and Christmas cheer. In a bright red suit that sparkles like the candles in the snow, he brings magic to the darkness with a gentle glowing glow. Through frosted panes and sleeping towns, his sleigh bells ring so sweet. A whispered laugh, a snowy path, the sound of dancing feet. Oh, Santa, Santa, shine in the night, with a heart so full of kindness and his eyes so full of light. In the cold and quiet winter, when the world is tucked in tight, he lifts our spirits high again. Santa's magic makes the season bright. With a beard as white as moonlight and a smile warm as the sun, he reminds us in the darkest times that joy is never done. Every gift he leaves behind us is a promise wrapped in red, that love can chase the shadows from the places we may dread. Across the rooftops, calmly gliding, snowflakes swirling in his wake, he fills the air with hope and wonder, a dream for all to take. Oh, Santa, Santa, shining in the night, with a heart so full of kindness and his eyes so full of light. In the cold and quiet winter, when the world is tucked in tight, he lifts our spirits high again. Santa's magic makes the season bright.
I think I have everything in place right now. I'm liking the way this is looking. In fact, I really like it without any colour on it, but I am going to paint it. However, before I can do that, I do need to leave this to completely dry. So I am going to put this back in my G3 curing machine for a couple of hours to speed the drying along. This is all dry now and ready for painting. I'm using some alcohol ink markers, and I've got a little bit of alcohol in this pot. I'm using that because that means that the foam clay is not going to get wet. The alcohol will evaporate super fast. If I'm using acrylic paint and water, then I'm going to have to wait for it to re-dry all over again. So I'm going to scribble a little bit on the table, and I'm going to pick that up with my brush and a little bit of alcohol, and then I can paint this. And this really does make it look kind of like a watercolour, which is a nice effect. I like this effect. I can also paint directly onto the foam clay as well. So I am going to again speed this up a little bit because it's quite a long process, and I'll pop on a little bit more music. It's time to varnish now. So I've created a protective collar. I've just got a plastic bag in there which is pushing it towards the outside. And I'm going to take this outside to my shed and give it a spray coat of varnish. Okay, this has had 2 coats of acrylic varnish now, and the inside has been protected by that collar, so there's nothing in there. For that, I'm going to need to use this wax. This is a countertop and stone wax, and it's specifically meant for food. It does say food safe here. So this we find to use as long as I follow the instructions on the tin. Let me just open the lid. I've got a nice bit of clean cloth. It's like a piece of t-shirt. I'm just going to fold that up, and I just need to get a coat of the wax on here now. I'm not trying to rub this in or anything. I just want to coat all of the inside of the surface with a layer of wax, and then I'm just going to leave that for a couple of hours. It says on the packet you need to wait for a haze to glow over it. I think what it means is for it to become slightly less sticky on the surface, because you can't really see the haze, it being white. A couple of hours later, and I'm now ready to buff it. So I've got a new clean piece of t-shirt fabric, and I'm buffing this in, polishing it into the surface, and the whole thing becomes really silky smooth. It's a lovely effect that you get from a wax. After it's all polished in, I need to leave it to sit for a further 24 hours just to let it breathe and settle into the surface, and then it will be ready for putting the snacks in. And to clean it, I would recommend just using a damp cloth with some dish soap, but don't immerse it in the water. I am going to be putting some varnish on the base, but not until the Aqua Cast has had time to fully cure and evaporate water for a couple of days. And here it is, full of snacks, although probably not for very long. I hope you've liked this video. If you have, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up, comment, share if you can, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. It is free and it will help my channel, and you'll be able to come back and see what I'm going to make next time. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.